Today is a big day. Today we are getting on top of my winter preparation. It is officially miserable over here and it's also just starting to rain again. Yay! Proving my point, it is definitely getting into the miserable part of the year over here in Australia. It has been raining so much over the last 3 days. It has definitely cooled down a bit, and by the end of the week we will go down to 12 degrees. Not freezing cold, but definitely not the temperatures that I want my plants to be exposed to. And I already spoke to you in another video about the whole idea of me learning from last year's mistakes. Last year I had too many casualties out here, so this year I want to do a little bit better and be more proactive. So today we're doing a full day of winter prep. There's a few things involved. First of all, I need to choose which plants are going to stay out here and which plants are going to move inside. Well, for them to move inside, I then need to make room inside so I can fit them in, and then the hardest part will be arranging all of them so that it works for me and the plants. I don't want to clutter my place where it's too many plants. Yes, I think there is such thing as too many plants. I think when it comes to aesthetics, more isn't always better. It's more about displaying plants beautifully, not having as many as possible in any given space. So I want to arrange everything so that it looks good from my perspective, but also so that the plants are in a spot where they can survive over the next 4 months or so. And today was supposed to be the perfect day because it just stopped raining and it wasn't supposed to start raining again, but here is the rain yet again. So we better get started with this video, but maybe we start the video inside. Hey everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and welcome to a full day of plant care with me. But today's plant care is not your traditional repotting, extending, cleaning, pest treatment and so on. Today's plant care is actually mainly about choosing plants and rearranging plants, and that's actually a huge part that I think we don't often talk about. When it comes to having plants, especially having so many plants, it is all about prioritizing and compromising. In a perfect world, I would love to give every single plant the space and the conditions that the plant needs to thrive, but we don't live in a perfect world. I'm very limited when it comes to space, and I'm very limited when it comes to space that has good conditions. Specifically, light is a huge issue in my house. So when I choose the plants that go inside, I need to really prioritize which plants do I really want to see thrive, and or which plants do I think will have the worst time growing outdoors. If a plant can survive outside but maybe not thrive, then the plant will probably stay out there because it can at least survive and then have another nice growing journey in spring, summer and autumn. I also don't want to have an empty garden over the next 4 months. During daytime the weather can still be really nice, so I do like to spend time in my garden even during winter. It's just the nighttime temperatures that can go a little bit too low and then potentially cause some dormancy, fungal issues and then eventually death to the plants. And I have had a bunch of casualties last year, so I need to learn from my mistakes and do a little bit better. So it is the very tail end of April, so May, June, July and August are going to be the 4 worst months of the year over here. So I want to get my winter prep done before the weather really turns on us, rather than having the plants being exposed to that sort of conditions and that shock due to temperatures, and then trying to counteract them. So that's my learning curve from last year, right? We make mistakes for a reason. It is absolutely pissing down outside now. That is not good, because the first thing that I wanted to do is really look at all of the plants and determine which plants should move inside. And I would also love for those plants to not be soaking wet and then make a mess everywhere. But I think that I need to give up on. The thing is, the weather forecast looks as miserable for the rest of the week, right? So at some stage I just gotta suck it up and do it. I mean, right now it says it's sunny. That weather forecast can never be trusted. But look at the rest of the week. Tuesday to Saturday looks as rainy. And down here we're going down to 13. Last week it actually said it was gonna go down to 12. Again, can't ever be trusted. It's not looking terrible. That's what I was saying. It's like, I don't want to wait until the conditions outside are terrible. Terrible for tropical plants. I'm aiming for nothing under 15. Long story short, let's not start selecting the plants, but let's rather start upstairs, I've got my attic upstairs, which I'm kind of just using for storage. And during summer, I do have a few plants up there, but they're mainly in prop boxes because the problem upstairs is that hot air rises. So in summer, it is boiling hot up there. But in winter, when it's a little bit cooler, it's actually nice and warm up there. So should be a great environment for some of my plants, just potentially a little bit too dry. That's the only thing that I need to kind of look out for. It's an attic, and while I have one skylight, the rest of it is pretty dark. So let's head upstairs and set up that space with grow lights and so on, so that it's ready to receive my plants in the first place. Hello. Alrighty. Here we are in my attic. I have you on super wide angle, so this space looks much larger than it really is. I think the biggest limitation in this space is height. I mean, I am 183 centimeters tall, and I have about half a meter of like walkway before my head hits the ceiling. Which is also going to be a problem with a lot of my plants. Most of my plants would actually be too tall for this space. I might be able to put some up against this railing over here. I don't even know if I'm a frame. Over here, because that's the highest one. Or maybe I need to position a plant or two on the actual staircase part over here, because obviously then we have way more overhead space. Now, right over there is a skylight, and the sun moves this way in winter, this way in summer. So as the sun moves this way in winter, a bit of direct sun is actually beaming into this sort of corner. So this, hello darling, this space should have okay direct sun, but as soon as we're moving into that corner over there, it's getting really dark. You can see that over here I've got a few shelves with some plants. I've got some prop boxes like seedlings and so on over here. And don't worry, we're going to look at all of the plants at the end of the video when I've determined what's going to stay here and what not. Hello baby. And over here I've got all of my crazy rubbish in a prop box. So they're just getting the natural light at the moment, and this is kind of always like my ugly section, even during summer, you know. Everybody has ugly plants and they're also got to go somewhere. I don't want to throw them away just because they're ugly. I want to give them time to come back, but I don't necessarily want to look at them while they're ugly. Yes, my baby. So I already have a few plants here, but I think this section will be more suitable for some of the larger plants from my garden. So I want to get rid of those and move them into that darkish corner, so they're also out of the way. The more plants I can tuck away in the corner, the better, so that I mean, not that I do much with this space, but I feel like I want to tuck a few more into the corner over there. And then behind me is all of the human storage. The place I'm currently living in has absolutely no storage, like whatsoever. Apart from the bedrooms, we have like wardrobes for our clothing, but all of the other things are all in that corner over there, and I do have to clean that up, but that's not a priority. I can do that at any time. Right now I really need to focus on getting the plants up here before it gets too cold outside, but I need to unlock the space first, so let's do that. So I'll just keep you there and hopefully everything will make sense. So as part of unlocking the space, I wanted to put a different shelf here that is a little bit lower so I can have taller plants. And then in this section I want to set up grow lights. Yes, my baby. Hello. The baby is up here sometimes because it's nice and warm during winter, hot air rises. And he's got a little toilet up here as well, don't you? So he has one downstairs in the bathroom and one up here. So maybe in winter when it's really cold and depressing, I'll just come up here and spend a bit of time here. So I also want to make it look somewhat nice. All things considered, right? It's obviously never going to look amazing, but I wanted to look reasonable. Yesterday I already induced dormancy for my Discoria discolor. Ooh, what's happening? Oh no. And as part of that, I've got a few propagations here. This one is like a really old plant shelf. I don't know, if you're an OG follower, you'll remember I used to have all of my plants on these shelves. So I'm gonna put this kind of here, right under the skylight. So I'm gonna be able to have plants on here. And then also use the storage down below. I also need to obviously protect the carpet. So when I put any of the plants down, I don't want them to be on the carpet. So over here, for example, I've got just a piece of wood that I had, and then I can put pots on there. I mean, ideally I would love to have cover pots for everything, but I don't know if I have enough of them. So won't hold my breath on that one. Let's get rid of all of these pots first. Actually, well, let's not get rid of them because I might need them. Let's just put them aside, maybe. This is unreasonably exhausting because I need to squat the whole time. Now you can really see a little bit of nice natural light coming in here. And then I've got this shelf. Again, I would like to make use of this shelf so that the plants aren't on the floor. Now let me show you the grow light options that I've got. Okay, so these are my old mother grow lights. I've started replacing them with the new Life Spectrums instead because they're expandable. These are the plant spectrums. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them. Hang on, you can't even see me. And where's my coffee? They are definitely the fanciest attic light I could possibly think of. It will actually look really nice in here. I said it when I meant it. Biggest problem over here is actually that I have hardly any power plugs. So I also need to, the only power plug is hidden all the way over there. Let me get an extension cord. Okay, here we go. At least it's definitely warm up here. Should definitely get a little humidity and temperature reader up here just to see what it's like. Actually, let me not get one just yet. I'm sure I have to go down for something else. I'm trying to avoid going down so many times because today I will have to go up and down a lot when I move in all the plants. So, and also I'm probably not going to overthink the whole setup today. See how we go, but I know that the first iteration of any setup usually doesn't last all too long. So I know that there will be changes and I'm fine with making changes over the next coming weeks. Doesn't need to be perfect. I just want to have somewhat of a setup so I can start bringing plants in. So I also have this light over here. It is the old grow light that was in my IKEA cabinet, and this one is super strong, but it looks terrible. But I feel like up here the terrible look isn't going to deter me all too much. It comes with some strings so I can hang it somewhere. I could mount it on a tripod. I could kind of hang it from here maybe and just shine it onto this corner. Let's see what it looks like. Oh my god, very bright. Holy moly, I forgot how bright that was. That is actually pretty perfect. I could just hang this like this, huh? It doesn't need to shine down. Can you see me? Have a look at this. If I just hang this over here, that's pretty perfect. How can I hang this here? Cable ties. I'm definitely gonna go do that. So let me get cable ties. Now you can also see all the dust. Let me get a vacuum cleaner, cable ties, and what was the other thing I was looking for? Fuck, what was the other thing I said I was gonna get? How did I already forget the third thing? Fuck. Definitely get a little humidity and temperature reader up here just to see what it's like. I don't know. I'll be back. There's some little holes here. Oh my god, getting so sweet. The humidity reader. That's the third thing. Okay, definitely forgot this, but don't worry. Won't be my last trip downstairs and I'm already a sweaty mess. I won't pull it super tight so I can still move it around on here if I really want to, but I think over here. Oh my god, that was so easy. Amazing. let's see, maybe I don't even need both. If I don't need both, that would be good, because then I could put it somewhere else and unlock another corner somewhere. But I suppose also it will depend on how many plants go out here. And then this one I can put here, coming in from here, huh? And then I've got light sources coming from two sides, but they're not really intruding on us either. Now, I also have bought this shelf. Let me build that real quick. Here we go. That's good. It changed color as well. Got that one from Bunnings ages ago, and initially thought it would maybe be cool for some alocasias or something like that. The only problem I've always thought was that, well, they're gonna shade each other, so if the light source comes from above, not a good idea. But over here I now have both light sources coming from the side, but I can stack more plants vertically. So maybe this should go here or here. Maybe this should be here. Anyway, it depends on the plants later. And I have a second shelf that I haven't built yet. I'm not too sure if I need it, but it's just here, just in case, you know. Why not? I think that's good enough for now. I think we need plants and then refine the setup. Alrighty, it is still raining out there, so let's continue with inside. Now, my office through there and then to the left, where all of my big moss pots are and so on, nothing to do in there. Or probably nothing to do over there. Last week I did a couple of extensions in there, a chop and extend. I filmed all of that for separate videos and so on, and then I also took all of them out and thoroughly washed them just with the garden hose, and I did that without filming, and it was actually so nice. I just turned on music and had a good time. So basically the office is already taken care of for now, and all of the plants in there are going to stay, but it's already pretty packed, right? That's kind of like my prime real estate, the spot that I spend the most time in. So that room shouldn't change all too much, with maybe the exception of doing something about the alocasia setup, but that's not an immediate concern. If plants move inside, they will have to move into this living area over here, or upstairs into my attic, and or anthuriums will move into my bedroom onto the anthurium shelf. So while we're still waiting for the rain to calm down, let's prepare the space over here to see where I can fit more plants in, and or if there's maybe plants that are here right now that I would rather see in the upstairs attic, right? So the upstairs attic is obviously going to be the least viewed section, let's say. So if a plant is kind of a bit ugly or not performing in the way that I would love for it to perform, or is maybe a duplicate, then maybe the upstairs attic is going to be a good option for it. I have a few plants in mind already. This is Philodendron bellicosum, and the last 3 or 4 growth points all just rotted away without giving me a leaf. So quite clearly it's not happy with me, and I've been trying to play around with the watering a little bit, but that didn't really change anything. It was in that east facing window for the longest time, but it's clearly not liking it, and as a result of that I'm also not liking it. It also dropped when my big verrucosan dropped. The verrucosan fell on this one, and then it also ripped the most beautiful leaf off and hurt the newest one. So it is that spider mites? Hang on, I can't see anything. It's so dark here today. No, it's not. Okay. Because it's raining, it's so dark. So I reckon this is a good candidate for the upstairs area to see if maybe it has a better time upstairs. Whatever I'm currently doing is definitely not working, so I gotta change something, right? This one doesn't mind a darkish corner, so that one I can fit in somewhere else. It's a Scindapsus. In another one of my recent videos I also put a second grow light up there, so I actually have a little bit more space here for plants, but I haven't done anything with that space. So let's also assess what I can do over here, rearranging my existing plants and then seeing if that frees up space for other plants. And oh my god, the light is gonna drive me insane today. Not just today. Always. You guys must be so sick of me bitching and moaning about the light. Okay, we need to give up on this being a really beautiful experience from light. So I was thinking the Florida Beauty could be here, and the Florida Ghost could be here. So it's kind of like a little family portrait. I mean, that looks kind of really good, right? For you it just looks white. Let me show you with my phone, because the phone actually has such a better time. Have a look at this. With the phone it looks much better, and I'm hoping that the increased light exposure is going to help bring out more white in the Florida Ghost. Here I've got some cuttings of Atabapoense. That's actually one of the casualties that I had last year in the garden. These are cuttings that came from Tim's place. I give all of my duplicates to Tim, and then there's also a bit of an insurance policy. So when he's reached the top, I ask for a few cuttings. They have been rooting really well, so it's time to pot this up soon. Not today, I have other things on, but I think I can just put it upstairs with all the other propagations in the meantime. And to be honest, probably even after I repot it, it will go back upstairs until it looks like something nice. This is a serpents. I was thinking, also I'm gonna try and squeeze it in here. Actually, if I would get rid of this chair and the micans, I could even get there. Over here is my mixed pot of crazy rubbish. I think I want to put this upstairs because it is not loving it down here in the first place, and it takes up a lot of space on the dining table. So it's going upstairs. Over here I've got the Jose Bueno. It was in my north-facing window, but it's pushing too far into the window. So every time I open the window actually hits it. It's a sliding door, so that's why it hits it. It slides into it. So I'm causing a lot of damage. And I think over here it gets some natural light, but it also gets some light from that second grow light over here. We do have a bunch of space down here that has some of the east-facing window and some supplemental light from the grow light, which is good, right? The goal is to free up a bit of space. Here I've got my Mangela and the Adansonii. They'll stay here, and there's not really going to be that much room for other plants, but here is a Homolomina. And she's just not been loving this spot. So I think I'm going to put her upstairs into the attic. Also found another glass of propagations. Goes upstairs. Alrighty, and on this side, and yes, the sun is coming back out. So I think we can soon go back out there. I've got my oxalis that's going to stay here. I have now put the oxalis, can you see everything? I've now put the oxalis on this grey thing. I use the grey thing for filming quite a bit, so it'll be more convenient to get it. I only have to move one plant. Then I have my Alocasia Sabrina over here. She's not looking that good yet, but it's a nice narrow setup. The problem over here is, for example, I had my Florida Ghost here before as well. And if the Florida Ghost is here, north-facing window, gets quite decent light during winter, but the petioles and leaves are so long that they're banging against the glass. The glass is going to be cold, or get colder as we're approaching winter, which is not good. And then here's the sliding door. So every time, it's locked. Every time I slide the door open, I'm basically sliding into the leaves and then ripping them. So a plant like this one, the variegated monstera, with shorter petioles and like a more compact plant, is going to be perfect for this, but they're going to get plenty of nice natural sun. So let's see if there's maybe any little poles in the greenhouse that could go here. The serpents was another consideration, but again, it has too long of a petiole and leaf, so I need something more compact like this. And this one is actually going to be switched around. I have a nicer one outdoors. I would love to switch them around and see the ugly one try and survive winter out there. I think that's good enough for now. Let's go outside, use the little break in rain to at least get some plants from the greenhouse. They also wouldn't have been rained on, so they're not dripping wet just yet. Maybe everything else I just give like an hour or so, see if it stops raining for an hour so things can actually dry. Maranta had such a good time out here, but I would love to try growing her inside. I'm not too sure if it's going to be successful or not. Historically, I haven't had the best success with Marantas, but I want to give it another shot because I think it's looking good and I have the perfect spot for this one. And this one is the something like that. Also, would love to try this indoors again. Definitely those two will go back outside as soon as the weather is getting better though. Here I've got a bunch of anthuriums. This one is just a Magnificum hybrid. I think it's raining again. Oh, this is so annoying. And this one is a crystallinum. Let me bring you back in. Brettles, it's raining again. I don't mind the rain, but camera and audio equipment doesn't love the rain as much as I do. my Magnificum Forgetii hybrid, one of my absolute favorites, so it definitely has to move in. And this one is a Crystallinum hybrid. Now, I just saw a few spiders on here. You know what? I bet you now it's not going to rain anymore. Given that these plants were actually in the greenhouse and did not get rained on, I think I'm going to keep them out in the rain. Hopefully it's going to rain again and it's going to clean the leaves a little bit. I also need to chop a few off. And then at least, you know, I've done the cleaning part already. Alocasia gargaena is also going to go inside. Got a tiny Florida Ghost, an oblique propagation here, and another Bellicoisum. I've had a Bellicoisum in my greenhouse last year and it died over winter, so I'm not making the same mistake again, because this is actually the only one that is still growing and not aborting their growth points. Syngonium Frosted Heart. I think it could actually survive out here, but I think it's nice and compact enough. It could easily fit upstairs and look good, but it has so many spider webs on it. Definitely want to clean this one a little bit. I think it stopped raining again. It can't decide. This is my backup El Choco. It's growing really nice, and my mother plant inside is not growing really well at the moment. So this, I'm glad I kept this backup, but I also want to keep this backup alive, and I actually really enjoy the juvenile form as well. So the goal was always to have a juvenile and a mature one. So I definitely want to put this back in. Plus look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 active growth points on there at the moment. So this could fill in really nicely. And again, it's quite narrow actually. Maybe this could be a candidate for that way, north facing window, but maybe not. It's not that narrow. Anyway, I will park this on here for now. The bottom part of my Milano. Also the top part isn't growing the best, so it's good that I have a backup. 1 shoot, 2 shoots, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it could also very easily turn into a lush pole. So I want to keep this, but don't think it's going to like it out here during winter. Rugosum. Not the prettiest plant, but I think this one is going to have a hard time out here, and I think this one would have a good time upstairs because it doesn't mind drying out a little bit more. So it being warm and dry in the attic is probably not a bad thing for this one. Little surviving Alocasia Black Velvet, little surviving Alocasia Dragon Scale, tiny surviving, more or less surviving Platinum Dragon. And over here I've got some little surviving Anthurium stumps. They are Magnificum Forgetii hybrids. When I said it was going to be a rescue section up there, I meant it. Okay, the greenhouse is pretty empty, which is not a bad thing because I think some of the plants that are not in the greenhouse might actually go into the greenhouse. Not because it's warmer in the greenhouse over winter, but at least I can control moisture levels or watering. Out here it rains a lot during Sydney's winter, and then wet and cold is a bad combination. In the greenhouse it might be cold, but I can control how much it rains inside the greenhouse, so I can at least avoid the cold and wet combination in there. Can't avoid the cold. And I do think, to be honest, it's going to rain on us again, which is not a bad thing. That's kind of what I want now. Bradley, what are you doing in the back, huh? But let me maybe cut off a few ugly leaves while we're already here. Oh my god, I've also forgot to acknowledge the fact that I bought new gardening shoes, and they're the most hideous garden shoes I could find. And I did that on purpose. Once a year I buy some ugly stuff. Now honestly, they were $5 at Aldi, and I thought, you know what, you used to always wear slides, but then with the slides my feet get wet, my toes get wet. So I thought, you know what, this one might look terrible, but I'm going to stay dry and warm. Okay, what's going on here? Is there anything ugly I can chop off? Okay, and then I obviously have to rearrange the greenhouse as well, but that is a different day. Can't do everything at once. So what am I going to do now? I think I'm just going to keep them here, and hopefully rain is going to clean them a little bit, no? I should have really thought this through when it was raining so much. I should have just taken advantage of that. The bigger challenge is when we look at the other end of the garden and we get to choose where we put all of the ginormous big plants. That's gonna be a challenge. Oh, I think the rain is coming. Let's go inside. I have something else we can do in the meantime. A few weeks ago, in preparation for this day to happen, I have already expanded my anthurium collection over here, or like the setup, and I have 2 shelves next to each other now. But it's already pretty full, but a few of these plants look pretty bad because we had thrips. So for example, this plant currently taking up quite a lot of space, but has 0 nice leaves. So oopsie. And now this, it has healthy roots, so I know it's going to reshoot. It's just going to go upstairs into the rescue section until it looks pretty, and then it can come back down here. And you know what? That's okay, because this one is actually the same as this, so I already have a nice one. But I also have so much thrips damage everywhere that it's just not looking that nice anymore, right? So sometimes more isn't merrier. And this one needs to be repotted so badly as well. Again, this one has a nice new leaf over here. Oh my god, I reckon you can see nothing. But good news, it's pissing down again. So at least the plants downstairs will be nice and clean. Has grown one really nice leaf since the thrips. The other 2 are terrible, so I'm cutting them all off. I mean, not the new one. You probably can't see this because you have no filming light. See this? Not nice. I cut off so many leaves. People always hate on me, but hey, look, it's my plants, my journey. Like, I wake up in the morning and literally the first thing I see is this yellow edge. It's the first thing my brain looks at. I can't stop myself from looking at the ugly bits. So let's cut off the ugly bits so that my brain can be retrained to look at the beautiful bits. On that note, nobody will know, nobody will know. That's also been pissing me off every morning. Up here, you're a bit ugly. You're very ugly, actually. Why are you so ugly? Are you healthy? Yeah, you're healthy. Okay, just ugly. By choice. Odd. Nobody will know, nobody will know. Oh my god, my luxuriance, new leaf. I'm so excited. You're pretty. You can go, because you're ugly. Veitchii, terrible plant, never had great success with it. I reckon I'll put the whole plant upstairs. This plant is also not super happy here. I think maybe up here, huh? I'll just park it here for now. Another new post-thrips leaf down here is looking much nicer than the previous leaves. To be honest, it's looking a bit empty, but that's okay. Cut off all of this. Alright, sweet. It has actually rained a lot outside. Everything is soaking wet. Every single leaf looks quite wet, which is good news. So I don't have to clean them, or when I bring them in, they're already clean, right? So hopefully over those 4 months, I have to only take out those plants once or twice. Because obviously the more plants I have inside, the harder it is to take them outside for cleaning, right? There's a lot of ups and downs and so on. So hopefully, you know, during winter, there's also less pests, so maybe less need to take them outside for cleaning and so on. But see how I go. If there's maybe a nice warm day where I can put them outside and it's raining, the plants always really love that. So I think I'm going to start putting these plants upstairs. And then I also need to consider pots, right? When I have them in my greenhouse or in my garden, I don't have them in drainage pots. I have them just in their nursery pots so they can drain, so I don't need to worry about emptying anything out. But when I bring them inside, they all need to go into planters, decorative planters, not just for decorative purposes, but also just to protect my floors, my carpet and so on. So let me go ahead and collect all of the pots that I have. I mean, you saw there is already a bunch of them upstairs, but I also have a few downstairs in my garage. And I'm gonna try and not take too many at a time so that I also can guarantee their well-being. Oh my god, that's so heavy. So many pots. Those are just a few. There are actually more downstairs. I am thinking I probably don't have enough for 20 centimeter pots. That's going to be the biggest challenge. Wow, I'm so sweaty. Now what I found, let me show you these ones. I have a bunch of these pots, and I have the 1 in 20, and I have a bunch of them in 14 centimeter. The good thing is there is, no, you can't see this. Have a look at this. When I pop this pot in, the pot hovers here, and you saw that the pot isn't as deep as the actual planter. So there is about this much space where the pot isn't sitting in. That is perfect for a setup like my attic, because I assume I have to water a little bit more frequently up there due to the hot, dry air rising. But it is also really far away from my garden, like 2 staircases away, right? So I don't want to bring them all down, or like 1 staircase away from my bathroom, for example. I don't want to bring them into my bathroom and then always have to water them thoroughly, right? I want to just water them in their pot, or maximum take a bucket up with me, water over the pot, let it drain, and then put it back in here. But you know, there would be some more excess water draining out afterwards, but they can just drain in here without me having to worry about it, right? So it will make watering much easier up there. It doesn't look quite as good, and it doesn't have the stability because it's just plastic, but it has other functionality, right? So I have a bunch of them that fit the 14 centimeter pots that I use. And that's another good thing about me using such consistent pot sizes, because I only use 10, 14 and 20. I have lots and lots of outer pots that I can just switch around. It's still raining. One more thing I want to show you real quick, and then we have to tackle all of the other plants. Whee! Oh my god. It's so dark. Everywhere I go I need to bring my own light with me. Okay, the forest, I haven't spoken about it in a while, and I will make a whole dedicated video about it soon again. But basically in here, all of these pots are, like the maximum I can put in is I think this is also 10, these weird pots. So I'm gonna redo a bunch of the plants in here because it's quite empty, right? If you've seen the other video where I started getting rid of my plants in preparation for today, all of the plants, the hanging plants that were in here, I repotted and gave to Tim because they were just so incredibly root bound. But over here I've got a begonia that I got from my other balcony. It survived on my balcony all summer, but I thought, oh look, a spider! Hello spider! She's fine, she can eat the pests. Yeah, you go back here, darling. And then over here I've got a second little oxalis. It's actually in another pot, so I should probably repot this or do something about it. I just popped it in here because it's a nice pop of color and makes it look less empty for now. And then over here I've got a pot of trailing Brazil, but I think it's so ugly that I think I'm going to give this the top spot, so we don't really get to see this that much. I have ideas for this. Let me show you. How stunning does the Maranta look over here? So stunning. That was always the plan. And okay, now I can spill the beans. The plan is to make this an entire Maranta stand. But I need to propagate the rest of the Maranta species. I'm pretty sure I killed the silver band and the black Maranta, but I have the Kashavala out there, and I want to get a red one again. So I'm kind of hunting them down over winter, and then I'll pop them in here. Whether or not they actually like the forest setup, I'm not too sure, but she definitely liked my greenhouse. So even if they don't like the forest, guess what? In spring, I'll pop them back outside and then they can just reshoot, right? So I think in here, my biggest concern will be staying on top of spider mites. But straight away, it looks so good. I love this. Oh, and then I put the Swanee one here as well. Okay, the other small plants from the greenhouse could either go into my IKEA cabinet or could also pop them in here. But what do you think about a little pole over here? I could put the... It doesn't sit really nicely because down there is like a little... These pots have like a little knob in the bottom, so it kind of like rotates around a bit. Or should this be maybe over here? Okay, I think these three at the top definitely should be filled with trailing plants because they obviously don't have a light coming from above. The light is coming down here. So, but for now at least it's not looking so super empty anymore. So I'm happy with that. I think it looks much better. And then these small plants can all go upstairs. It's still pissing down outside. So it's gonna be messy, it's gonna be wet. I just need to give up on that. But it's not bad because it is, I still haven't brought the measurement, I'll bring that too. But I think if there's a little bit of water sitting on these leaves, it's not a big issue. I do have a fan up here as well that I can turn on. But also I think it's quite dry, it's gonna evaporate quite quickly. So, let's go. I think the battery's on its way out. It says 94% humidity, 95% humidity. The humidity is going up as I go up the stairs. I mean, you've seen it, it's pissing down non-stop. It rained so much last night, like so much. It just doesn't stop. Oh, now it's only 91%. Whoop, whoop, okay. Well, but it's going to be interesting to monitor it because I think this place is going to be subject to lots of fluctuations. Anyway, let's go. These are the small plants. Okay. Only 86% only. I'm thinking these tall poles are actually put over there on that other shelf. Again, I'll show you later. But that was the whole idea of that shelf, right? I'm gonna be a sweaty mess. Here's the Milano. I'll put that on the left as well with the other poles. And I would love for as many pots as possible to be in a planter, as I mentioned, for watering, but also to reduce algae buildup. Okay, let's head into the anthurium room. Oh my god, I'm such a sweaty mess, but not many anthuriums to go in here. Let's do it. Yucky. This one in here. Please fit. Oh. I have this thing in here to catch, to hold it up, but I think this one is the perfect fit. Hallelujah! Oh my god, how good does that look, huh? Hell yeah. And then I have this one here. However, I think the luxuriance soon needs a repot and needs to be sized up a bit. We actually have room for these to grow. Or maybe what that really means is that a few more of these plants from upstairs can go down. But anyway, I want to repot the few that I mentioned first, because then they obviously take up more space. And also there's one more in my IKEA cabinet, which might also outgrow this space real soon. I mean, I can also put non-anthuriums on this wall, right? But I think I really like it for now. Let's keep it as it is. Also ensures that there's sufficient airflow between them, reducing fungal issues and so on. Wow, I'm so sweaty. One last thing before we have lunch. Over here is my box of crazy rubbish. Crazy rubbish. Now, they had thrips, which was definitely an issue, but the other issue is I think that they're also in this prop box, and the leaves are pushing up against the side of the prop box. And as a result of that, have all of these fungal issues over here, and they're overlapping. Basically, I don't think it's enough airflow in here. Basically, what this means is that I would love to move them out of the prop box and put them in individual pots so that they can breathe a little bit better, and then they'll also drain better. Two birds, one stone. And these are all for like a scavenger hunt. I want to put on a scavenger hunt, so I basically hide them, and then whoever finds them gets to keep them. And obviously, like I tell people via social media whereabouts I hide them. But they obviously need to be healthy for that first. So I'll just pop them. I'm not concerned about light for these ones. They should get sufficient light, irrespective of whereabouts I put them. We can also try out the lights. Why does it have such an unreasonably short cord, huh? Anyway. Wow. It's so bright. This is going to be perfect. Yeah, this is honestly going to be so good. Just need to find a smart timer for that as well, but I think downstairs I have a spare one. Yeah, let's go back downstairs. Alrighty friends, I'm a little bit exhausted, so I'm gonna have lunch, I'm gonna stop sweating, cool down a little bit, because I've been running up and down into the basement and so on as well. And hopefully by then it will also stop raining, and then I can take a few more of the larger plants inside. Then I'll show you everything inside, and then maybe tomorrow we can tackle the garden and see what stays out there for winter, arrange it and so on. And yeah, anyway. I'll see you soon. And we are back. Actually, let me show you the greenhouse first, just a real quick glance so you see how empty it is now. Have a look at this, so empty. I have kept the Amigo medium over here. It is one of my favorite plants. And it's kind of sad thinking that it's gonna stay there, but it was already out here last winter and I don't want to have a completely empty greenhouse, right? So I just don't think it's gonna have a good time growing indoors. So it's probably not gonna grow much over winter, but it shouldn't die. I mean, last year it was less established and it also didn't die. Right, so there's really just a couple of sections that I want to consider. The wall of poles and then anything under the umbrella. So over here I've got my Philodendron martianum. That was out last year as well. I think it's one of these candidates for maybe going into the greenhouse, just so I can control watering. Now the sun is even coming out. What the hell? I have an elbow syngonium over here. The Motherphyllum is definitely gonna stay out here. And I have my Syngonium mojito over here. So nice and lush, but again I think it's taking up too much space indoors, and I think they'll just be fine out here. So I'll leave them and I'll choose what I want to do with them tomorrow, which leaves me with plants on this wall. Now I've got the Cebu Blue, it's going to stay here. The Monstera is also going to stay here because it's a Monstera. Huh? The Steiermarkii is a consideration to move inside, but I feel like it's going to have an okay time out here. But I really want to take this one. This is the El Salvador, Monstera siltepecana El Salvador. Currently I have the bottom part inside. This one was the top part. The bottom part was growing so well outdoors and the top part wasn't growing that well indoors, so I figured, well, let's switch them while the weather is good. But I would love to have this bigger, nicer plant indoors over winter, and I put the other one out here. So let me quickly get rid of some yellow leaves, like this. And I will replace it with this one, the bottom part. So that's, and I'll show you where I took this from. Then in between, hidden over here, is my Monstera pinatipatita. I've got a full video about her coming. Basically, in a nutshell, she was thriving until last winter when I kept her outside. She hated it and absolutely shed herself. So I've been trying to nurse her back to health. I'm gonna cut off these ugly bigger leaves. At least there's some decent root growth happening. But I need to do better than last year. I need to learn from last year's mistakes. Hence, I will put this plant inside. Yeah. The dubia over here will also stay. I can put this in here now, I think. This one has to go. This one had such a phenomenal growing season out here. Look at these beautiful leaves. New one unfurling. But I still want to move it in, and then this one can just unfurl inside. Eventually also a consideration, of course now the sun is coming out, I'm not too sure if you can see anything or if it's a bit backlit, but you'll still see it. It's Chavonia, by the way. You can see how empty the bottom is. That's where you see all of the indoor growth. So maybe eventually I'll also chop it, plant it up, so that on top of having these large leaves, it's not such a tall pole, right? Because we still have plenty of room to go, just the bottom part looks very ugly. But not today. The siltepecana I cannot move in. It's actually attached to the fence, but, well, I could detach it from the fence, but she was already out here last season and didn't mind it. The Ring of Fire. Now, I actually think I would have room for this plant upstairs. where I just created that whole area. Or I have one other spot in mind for her. The idea was actually to keep her outside because she's such a big space commitment, but I am thinking maybe I'll try her indoors again because I kind of like her right now. Look at the roots, she's definitely very happy, but she hasn't grown many leaves. Maybe indoors she would grow more leaves. I'll see how I go. Maybe I should just put it in the greenhouse. To be confirmed. Okay, this one is Indonesian marble. I hate her. I just don't think she's pretty. I am propagating her in 1,000 little bits. So she'll stay out here. Then I've got a nice Deliciosa over here. She'll also stay because that's the whole idea. I want to try her outside. And I might put her in this beautiful pot. And next to that I've got a beautiful Adansonii. Best thing is the wall still looks pretty good, right? Looks fairly lush. I can maybe space it out a little bit better tomorrow because I think I've maybe cramped them a little bit too much. I do want to give them plenty of airflow, but maybe keeping them together is also going to keep them warm. I'm not too sure. Anyway, that means that I've only have 3 poles and maybe the ring of fire that I want to put inside. That shouldn't be too hard of a challenge to make work, but let's find out. I feel like this one here wouldn't really work with the position of the light, right? Only that top leaf is going to get burned and the rest wouldn't get any light. So this is not the position for that. I think this one would work because it's a round plant anyway. It has leaves everywhere. And I've pushed it in. Okay. Plus it's a Monstera. Also we need to be mindful with this spot. The heater is kind of there. So it's going to blast a bit of warm air in here. So I don't want to have a super finicky plant here. So I think maybe this could be nice. I'm not super concerned about this plant, let's put it that way. Okay, I am concerned about not having a pot for this plant though. Stay. And I feel like this way, this plant is also covering the side of the IKEA cabinet quite nicely, so it's not so blinding. And this is also the backdrop for me filming. I think it's gonna look good there. I like it. And now we can also make it more wide. Yeah, we'd go with the wide beam. Hang on, show you. So this grow light I can tilt. I can also tilt more forward, for example, but I think pretty much straight down is going to be good, so it also doesn't impact it. Could also tilt it backwards, but then I just illuminate the stairs, right? And then I can go from a narrow beam, so it's like a spotlight, to a wider beam. In this instance, I reckon wider, so that more of this plant actually gets the grow light. Well, one done, which means that that corner that was supposed to be for the El Salvador, I can put something else. Let's have a look. I was thinking maybe the frosted heart can go there because it's nice and small. It's not so tall, you know, it doesn't take up so much space. I think that would be cool. I actually need to top this up with some substrate. Now, originally I had this plant on a little table down here, but I don't think we need a table anymore because the other one is much taller. Because the problem with this plant is the bottom part is not very pretty, but the top very much is. If I lean this backwards like that, ooh, the pot is slightly too big, so it doesn't have that much stability. But like this, it looks good. Yes, let's do that. Just need to find a pot that has a better fit, but for now I'm not worried because it's also not subject to airflow over there. I think I just need a cover pot for this, but then this could go here. I just don't think this was so happy here, but maybe I could put this back here. Yeah, I think I will. I think next spring I'll move the Jose Bueno out because it's not really doing much inside, but I reckon it would have a good time outside. I like this. I like the way that this looks now. The oxalis here, so it gets a little bit of direct sun from the window, but hopefully mainly from the grow light. But then over here I have this Alocasia gargaena. I was thinking maybe this is not this. It looks good because it matches the tones with this and so on, but maybe this is not the plant for this spot. I was thinking maybe even the alocasia would do well upstairs under the skylight. I have another idea. What about this here? Kind of fills that space nicely, but I'm not too sure if this is going to be enough sun for it. I'm not too sure if there's going to be enough light for it. That's also not the right pot for it, I think. This way it's a bit closer to the grow light, huh? Don't necessarily like it on this little table, but I think the functionality is there. And I think that gives it that sufficient height that we need. The part that takes the longest is actually the little fine-tuning, like, oh, should this be here or here? And the thing is, there's so many options, and the other thing is also, I will most likely change it 25 times. I think this is a good pot for it though. This pot over here before was a really nice snug fit, but it doesn't need the snug fit because it's not that tall. It's not going to fall over like a moss pile. So I'd rather give the snug fitting pot to a moss pile. Plus I think this one looks nice. I think I would like this to be more on display, whereas this one is more hidden. Now I elevated it with a little takeaway container so I can actually very liberally water that Alocasia cuprea, and excess water is just going to accumulate in the planter and the plant isn't going to sit in it. Is this nice? I'll give this one to the frosted heart. Too much, huh, for the table. Okay, so I just popped the Alocasia Gathera right here. I don't think it's going to be enough light for her, but I also think I need to stop overthinking everything because most likely I will rearrange another 7 times anyway. So let's just call it iteration number 1 for today. There's only one plant left, the Pinati Batita. She's still waiting outside and I know exactly where to put her. So let me quickly put her there, and then I'm going to put you on a tripod, and then I'll show you everything that I've done today, and we'll see the final iteration number 1. Alrighty, my friends, it is getting dark so quickly out there, so let me show you around before we're losing all of the daylight. So this is the north-facing window. I've got the Sharonii over here. Let's see how that goes. That gets actually really nice afternoon sun. And then the frosted heart moved in here as well. The variegated Addy has always been here, so has been the Jose Bueno. Hello baby. Yes, almost dinner time. Alrighty, then this section has probably changed the most, and this is probably also the section that you can see the least because the lights are so bright. In reality, the light is actually really, really beautiful. It's not as harsh as it might appear on camera. But cameras adjust, right? So this is the Florida Beauty. Beautiful new leaf over here. And then I thought it would be cute to have the Florida Ghost right next to it. And I want the Florida Ghost to go minty again. So I'm hoping that the proximity to both of these grow lights, the two Soltex, is going to bring out a lighter color in this again and more consistently. Then I've got the Ring of Fire over here. I'm not sure if this is going to stay. I think when I run out of space, this is the first one to go back outside. But I kind of just thought it kind of complements this corner quite nicely. And then the Oxalis, let's see if this is going to stay here or not. And then I've got the Mandula over here. This one is a really wild growing Mandula, right? There's like one cutting at the bottom over here and so on. So I'm happy for that to get a bit of light from the window, a little bit of light from here. Having those multiple directions in which light comes from is actually going to give me the result that I want. I've got the Thai and the normal variegated Monstera over there. They just get nice morning sun. I'm not planning on supplementing with light over there, but this cuprea has its own grow light, and I didn't realize how much she's grown since I've given her that grow light. When I induced dormancy for my Discoid Escala that was here, the cuprea was actually in that spot before I put the Discoid Escala over here in October or so. Yeah, I think it was in October. And when I looked back at that footage, I didn't realize how tiny the plant was last year in October. You should definitely be able to see that first shoot coming out here. Basically, it finally happened. There's some sort of growth. I actually want this plant to grow up that railing over here. the plant has actually grown a lot since I put it there, so happy days. The Scindapsus has now moved up onto my IKEA cabinet over here. Also not sure if it's going to stay there. It looks very dark. That's because it is very dark in that corner. I suppose it would just get a little bit of dappled light from below. I don't know. I just didn't know where else to put it. And then over here is the El Salvador from the outside world. I think it just looks so good there. And over here is the Gathera, which is she needs to move into this spot to really get light. Probably not gonna happen, hey. I need to do something with her, but not yet. This was the Silver Lady Scindapsus that used to be on top of the IKEA cabinet. I thought maybe put her here. She's actually grown some really nice large leaves straight from the pot. Maybe I shouldn't have changed it around. Maybe I'll put the other one. Anyway, quick pan through the house. Wow, so dark and sad. And actually this light is not usually pointing this way. I did that so it points at me. Okay, let's head up. Oh my god, it's like a race against time, huh? Alrighty, these are the anthuriums. So we just have this one is a new addition. Happy days. I think it's gonna look so good in here. And this one is a new addition as well. Yeah. And I just chopped back a few ugly leaves instead. But I actually have space there. So yeah, all good. And then this is the new upstairs rescue section. As well as here, there's some poles over here. And I decided to just put the second mother light right there. Because why not? And we've seen all of these in a little bit detail anyway. There's not all too much to share about them just yet because, well, they just moved in here. So I'm not too sure if they're going to like it here or not. Oh, yeah, this is where I put the Pinati Patita, by the way. Here next to the shelf. So all good. The seedlings should now get some extra light from the mother light as well. So happy days. Alrighty, and I'm back down here. Everything is in place for now. I know that I will rearrange quite frequently here and there, and it's not usually that I don't usually do it all in like one go as well. I mainly did that today so I can take you along, and then hopefully you kind of have a somewhat realistic insight into how much rearranging and so on I do in repositioning. But usually here and there I move things around where I'm like, oh, this could be here, or let's try this here, and then see how the plant does, and then evaluate, adjust, and so on, right? So it is an ongoing thing. It's not something that I do just in one day. And there's a few things that I keep in mind. Obviously my own aesthetic preference, but also the plant's location. Is it getting enough light? Is it getting too much draft from a heater or from an air conditioning? And is this spot actually enabling me to get the absolute best out of this plant, or is this plant maybe just slowly suffering in this spot, and so on? And then how much do I like this plant? I have so many plants, I definitely need to prioritize. I know exactly which plants I like the best. They're the ones in my office. These ones, but they haven't changed at all as a result of today, because they're always my favorites and they always get the best spot. Let me also show you the forest real quick. How good does this Maranta look over here? The Oxalis looks good over here. And then the Swanee. Yeah. But would love a few more Marantas. Imagine they would all look like this. How amazing would that be? So that's a nice little project. Basically, I was saying I need to prioritize. What plants do I really want to see thrive over the next 4 months? Which plants am I just wanting to overwinter over here before I put them back outside to hopefully then thrive in spring? It is going to be 4 months, so it's not just a short while. 4 months can be a very long time. But you know what? See how we go. I'm exhausted. I need to vacuum and clean up a little bit and fluff around, and tomorrow, weather depending, I'm gonna tackle the garden. So everything in the garden is now going to stay there. With some plants I might induce dormancy, some plants I might move into the greenhouse. I'm gonna have to rearrange the greenhouse. And then once I'm done with that, we can do a bit of a stock take, and then we can assess how the plants are coping out there over winter. And of course I'm gonna give you updates on how the plants are coping in here over winter as well. So make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell so you get a notification every time I post. Please also give this video a thumbs thumbs up, and if you watched all the way, leave a rain cloud emoji in the comment section. Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying spring and your upcoming summer if you're in the northern hemisphere. If you're in the southern hemisphere, I hope you are getting on top of your winter preparation, and I hope winter won't be all too horrible and long for us. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you really soon.